There is God, thank you so much for loving us. Thank you for saving us. Thank you for your son, Jesus. Thank you for the sacrifice he made for us. Thank you that he rose again and we can accept you, that that is an option, Lord. We are so grateful. We adore you. We want to just continue to praise you, God. As always, I just want to thank you for Pastor Daniel. Thank you for healing him and his family, bringing him back healthy and safe, and just ask us, as always, you'd speak through him and that you'd open our hearts to hearing what you have to say. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Lexi.
Thank you.
I just realized that the Wii and the TV has been on this whole time. Could someone turn that off?
I just
Totally my fault. I left it on.
I know.
I'm doing it past.
I just turned it on earlier to
How could you?
remind people it exists.
Grad's more important.
Okay, let's see. Krista, you just hit the power button.
Yeah.
It's the glowing LED power button.
The one that says
And then the
power
TV, you have to
off.
hold the power off
Yeah,
button.
there's them on.
Okay, so let's see. Krista, Caleb, Nina, Micah, Abby,
Who's Micah?
James, Gwendolyn, and Faith have all taken the Topic Night quiz.
Oh, I was like, what is this random list of names?
But
you guys?
everyone else,
Wait, I've taken the top of 9 list.
what did you put your name
Most
as?
of those people aren't here.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Philosophy?
Did
Oh,
you
yeah.
put your name as
Are we
Losby?
going to
Okay, you're
shame
the
them?
mysterious Losby. Got it.
He puts his name as philosophy for everything. I was
That
with
doesn't
him
help
that
me
night, so
because he
that
hasn't
counts.
put it down for me ever.
That counts as me, so like I was
Wait,
him.
you can't answer his. You have to answer yours.
So what is it again?
ccchico.com/topics.
What is it?
It's literally
Topics.
what topics do you want to talk about in September? Friday nights in September are going to be topic nights. I'm on 4 nights to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about.
Dude, what was your topic?
How can you slap?
How hard
Anyways,
can you slap?
I know what's already leading in the topic night poll, but I will release
What
to you
is it?
guys what the winner is once everyone's actually done it. So, some of you guys have not, some of you were here so you didn't even know it existed. I can't blame you for that. But I can encourage you to go and take the poll.
Okay. What?
It's there.
Ta-da.
There.
Go to ccchico.com/topics as soon as you can. If you'd like to do it here before you leave so you don't forget, I will have it loaded up on this iPad, ready to go after service. It's going to be over on the kitchen counter. You guys can go take the poll. It takes like, what, 2 minutes? Tops?
That
3
long?
minutes.
3 minutes maybe if you're slow at typing. But yeah, for most of you it'll take like 2 minutes. You can first choose from any topics we've done in the past, and then after that, there'll be a blank where you can just add a topic. We're like, you know what, you guys never covered this, I want you to cover it. Do it.
What's
And
the
I'm
topic
gonna
in first
watch
place?
all of
I
you
know.
as you leave the room, and if you don't put something in, I'm gonna go fill in it for you and put a weird topic under your name to
Well, that's
embarrass
better
you.
than what I was gonna do. I was gonna throw rotten bananas at them. Yeah, that's good too.
Can the
That's good
topic
too.
be chicken strips?
I already
Yes,
did
you could.
mine.
You could add that.
Can the topic be jokes?
Also, we're probably gonna start doing some food in the September Fridays, just for funsies. So if you
Every
wanted
joke
to
that Jesus
put in a
made.
food edition in there, you could.
Can the topic be the Bible?
Yes, it can.
Could it be cannibalism?
It would
And
be
it
hard to
will
fit that in one night.
Wait,
but we
guys,
could do
Judah, remove your
I
vote.
recommend it not be cannibalism.
Judah,
I recommend it not be
re-vote
can-
for
Can
cannibalism.
I decast a vote
Or
for
girls.
cannibalism? A negative vote?
I voted for
Just
Can
put in
I?
minus cannibalism.
Yeah, you should add that in the survey.
No.
Alright, if you don't have a Bible, get off your duff and go get one.
I have a Bible.
If
Where'd
you're not
my
sure what a
duff
duff
go?
is, that's
if
okay.
you don't have a Bible on your person, in your hands, I mean,
If you're
Your
not
common
ready
sense.
to read right now, go get it. Go,
never
go,
ready.
go, 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 go. No, I take mine. I need that.
No, you don't. You can just memorize.
Jordan, I can't take mine.
I'm not even here on Friday.
Alright guys, we're in Exodus chapter 35.
I can only pick
Oh,
five.
In your coffee.
Judah.
Daniel, why can I only pick five?
Daniel,
Why can you only pick 5?
I took Elisa's seat.
Elise, you're
bad
a
things
robber.
happen to you.
So that you can't skew the poll. We've had people do that in the past, so they just like, I choose everything. And that's not really a choice. That's not helpful to us.
I will wait.
So we've gone backwards.
James, you've been removed for life.
It's his fault. He took my seat. Blame him.
Also,
Thank you for the heads up. Yes.
when we're gonna leave, I kind of want to talk to you about
lemonade.
my schemes of buying and selling and creating custom sets with Lego Mario, and then selling them for a profit.
Custom what's?
Custom Lego Mario sets.
Lego. Oh, I missed the word Lego. Okay, now I get it. Gotcha.
Hello, Lise.
So custom Lego sets, which I'm selling for profit, and I've created a whole wave of them now.
That's awesome. Do you have a way to get the Lego sourced at a like a wholesale price?
I can just
We'll talk later. I'm very interested, but yeah,
but
later.
I just get.
You're right, and you can have your
when
Okay.
I get sets. I create custom ones.
No, I get the
sell them on
process.
eBay.
I was just curious
There
about the
was-
mechanics of it,
No, I
like the
took it.
particulars, but we'll talk
I
later.
created a bit,
So,
but that was my
Judah?
and I took his.
Do people see darkness?
It's a really good question. All right,
No.
we're in
No, we
Exodus
don't
chapter
see.
34 today. We're starting off in verse 1 because we're just going to do the whole
Just see in
thing
darkness.
chapter. Read with me, chapter 34, verse 1. Exodus 34. Everyone there?
Yep.
Everyone got it? Open up. There's no
Exodus
point in having a
right now.
closed Bible. It's like having a sword in the
Genesis
sheath
48. Okay.
and then being like, I'm
there.
ready, let's do this.
I'm there. Genesis 48.
It's not helpful.
It's like having a pencil and being like, let's go hunting.
And,
can I read the
well,
first-
no, it'd be like having a pencil that's not sharp and be like, I'm ready for this
Can I read
test.
the first
I've
verse?
studied all week.
Can I do the first verse?
We started watching it, by the way.
If it was that thing where you just
You're only
fill
allowed
in
one
the
pencil.
circle for the test, I
Oh, yes.
I loved that moment. From that moment on, I was like, I love this character. I'm totally
She's
invested.
amazing, isn't she?
She is. The child actors have moments, but like, it's still awesome.
Wait,
Anyways,
what-
we're only like 3 episodes in, but yeah, it's great. Okay, chapter 34, verse 1. Read with me. Then the Lord told Moses, "Chisel out 2 stone tablets like the first ones. I will write on them the same words that were on the tablets you smashed. Be ready in the morning to climb up Mount Sinai and present yourself to me on the top of the mountain. No one else may come with you. In fact, no one is to appear anywhere on the mountain. Do not even let the flocks or herds graze near the mountain. Does anyone remember where we are in Exodus and what's happened so far?
Mount Sinai with the Sinai.
Well, the first part was right. Yeah.
So the people disobeyed them,
Mhm.
and then they drank gold, and then people killed them.
Yep.
And,
ate their
It's good so far.
Yeah.
You're hitting all the bullet points.
and now he's at the mountain.
Yep. Well, that's what he's being told to do.
I haven't
Yeah.
been here in a
He's
long
being
time.
told because he wants to have the people forgive.
Forgiven.
Forgive.
Yeah.
Forgive is not a word.
Sure, we'll go with it. It's close enough. Okay, so yeah, that's all good so far. One more step back
That's
behind
actually
where
not
you
true.
started was that Moses was on the mountain previously for 40 days. And while he was gone for 40 days, that's when they disobeyed big time. The people of Israel disobeyed massively. They made a golden cow. They started worshiping it like it was actually a god, even though they had just made it themselves. And they knew they had just made it, like, not, it wasn't a secret from anybody. But they worshipped it like a god. That's when Moses came down the mountain.
Worshipping nothing.
Woohoo! Big blob of stuff we put there. Yeah, that's a god. And then Moses comes down the mountain and he's holding the first set of the 10 Commandments. He just got them from God over the course of those 40 days. And he comes down with the 40-day-old stone tablets and all these commands, like not just the 10 Commandments, but like a lot of commands that God had given him over the course of the 40 days. And he's about to go tell all the people, and he sees their disobedience and he just smashes them in anger. Can't stand these ridiculously hard-hearted people. Then there's this whole like back and forth between Moses and the people, between Moses and God, where there's a moment of doubt where God's like, I really don't want to keep working with them. They're awful. But he ends up forgiving them. He ends up being merciful. However, things get more strict, and this is part of it. What we just read is part of that increased strictness. So previously, before Moses went up for 40 days, okay, so right before he leaves on the 40-day camping trip on the mountain, all of the nation got to approach the mountain and hear from God. They got to make sacrifices to God. They got to talk to God. They were right there at the mountain, right there with God. And now that they've messed up, even though they've been forgiven, there's not a perfect restoration of the previous relationship. There's just a continuation of the relationship. God isn't severing the relationship, but the damage has been done. It's not the same relationship they had before. And so there's increased strictness. Yeah, Judah.
So I haven't been here for 4 weeks.
That's why I'm catching everyone up, because it's been a while.
Who's Moses?
Oh, yeah, good question, good question. So Moses is a descendant of Abraham. He's from the tribe of Levi. He's the guy who's leading the nation. He was born in Egypt along with almost all of these Israelites. They've only been around Sinai for like a little less than a year. So most everyone was born in Egypt as a slave. Moses, however, was adopted by one of the Pharaoh's daughters. And so he was raised in the palace not as a slave. So he leaves eventually after he murders someone at age 40. He leaves the country, comes back, and he follows God's commands and actually rescues them and pulls them all out of Egypt.
So he kills someone and then obey, and then just like is.
Yeah. So he's like a 40-year-old prince of Egypt, murders someone, runs away in fear because he knows the punishment for murder is death, and eventually finds God and starts following God.
Wait, but if the punishment of murder is death, then how could the guy have gotten death if he's already dead?
Not the punishment for being murdered, David.
For being
Oh.
deaf.
Yeah. Actually, as it turns out, the consequences of being murdered is death. Not a punishment, just a
Wow.
consequence.
Really?
Did you
Oh, yeah.
know if you're a child in California, then you won't get death row? Because California
That's
doesn't
an
do that.
important fact. Apparently,
I
faith,
learned that
faith
when I
recommends
found out.
everyone commit murder.
I learned that when I found out that they.
Oh,
All right, guys, verse 2.
This is getting boring. Shut up, girls!
Verse 2. So remember, Moses was told to, I flipped my page. Whoop, there we go. Verse 4. That makes more sense. So Moses chiseled out 2 tablets of stone, like the first ones. Early in the morning, he climbed Mount Sinai as the Lord had commanded him, and he carried the 2 stone tablets in his hands. Then the Lord came down in a cloud and stood there with him, and he called out his own name. This is something that God had promised to do for Moses, and he's been waiting for a while.
So like your shirt. Stood there with them, came out in a cloud.
Yeah, we'll go with it. So he calls out his own name, and he says, Yahweh. Does anyone know Yahweh? You ever heard Yahweh before?
Yahweh.
I know, right? I didn't
You
think
should've
about
told
it.
me.
I didn't think about it. She cut one song this morning. The song was called Yahweh. We missed an opportunity. Okay, so anyone know Yahweh? What that
Yes,
means? What
yes,
that is?
yes.
Yeah.
So 2 things. 1, it starts with a Y. 2,
Not what it means.
wait, no, 2, 3 more things. But also 2 is
has
it's
the same
like God.
syllables as
Yahweh's God.
That's true.
That's the first.
Anyone
one.
else?
It's a book in the it's a word in the Bible.
It's a word in the Bible, not a book in the Bible.
Actually-
Good job.
I know. I
That was great. Anyone else? Anything else you know about Yahweh? Yeah.
I totally forgot what I was going to say.
Oh,
Me
darn.
too.
Okay, you can raise your hand again later. Yeah.
What does Yah stand for?
That's a really good question.
Yah.
Yah typically means God.
Donkey.
Oh, if it meant the, then it would. Cool.
It's just a
God
root though.
way.
They don't
Yahweh.
typically use Yah
God's way.
by itself as a word.
Wait, is it God's way? But if
No,
God's-
no. That'd be English. This is ancient Hebrew.
Yeah,
Totally different.
stop it.
As it turns out, it's not even the syllable way. So this is weird. Guys, check your Bible. Most of you have the NLT I have on the rack. Does anyone have anything different?
I'm in verse 30.
You have something different? Does it say anything besides Yahweh?
I have a
Or
hands-on
does it spell it in
Bible.
an interesting way? No, just says Yahweh. Okay. Every translation is
What is
different in
yours?
certain places. This is
What?
one of them,
What's yours?
but some of them are all
Genesis.
Yahweh.
does
So
it say on the side?
Yahweh in the original Hebrew was actually a contraction of God's name because the ancient Hebrews thought it would be disrespectful to leave God's name just lying around. That you really shouldn't say God's name without it being in the proper setting, at the proper time, without you yourself being made holy by all of the rules and the statutes that God handed down. So they thought that only a priest, when he was pure, when he was clean, should really utter God's full name. So what they did was, when they wrote his name down, they took out the vowels, and they just threw them away. So that what was actually on the page was just 4 letters. That's it. Just 4 consonants.
God was 3 letters.
Just 4 consonants. This isn't English. This is ancient Hebrew. So different. And if they took out the vowels from God, there'd be how many letters? 2. There'd just be G and D. So that wouldn't make any sense. So it's just 4 consonants that they wrote down. And it's all throughout the Old Testament. You keep seeing it over and over again. And the meaning was really clear because God explained it to Moses way earlier in Moses' life. He said, it means I am. And it's said in this tense. You guys know about tenses, right? In language, we have tenses like past tense, present tense, future tense. And there's more than that. Those are the big ones. But there's more specific tenses that exist than just past, present, future. The tense that God uses when he says I am is the tense of permanent, infinite, every directionness. So when he says I am, he means there is nowhere you can go, there is no when that you can go that I would not be. It's a statement of infinitude. He is infinite in time and space and in every other quality that you could measure him by. So when he says that I am, it's like every question you could ask. Were you there before? I was. Are you going to be there after? I will be.
Yes.
Are you there right now? Yes. Are you over there right now? Yes.
Yes.
Am I over there right now? Yes. Are you right here right now? Yes. I am.
Everything.
In all ways,
Everywhere.
in all time,
Cheater.
Everyone.
in every when and everywhere. Even outside of space, outside of the universe itself, there is God. So when he said I am, he meant it in the most that he could mean it. And then that's this name. So that's what this encapsulates. And they thought it such a powerful, important, holy thing that they stripped out the vowels so you couldn't even pronounce it properly. So the guess of how you pronounce it is where we get our word Jehovah. In
Okay.
English we say Jehovah, but that J in the Hebrew is actually a Y, which is why it's Yahweh on this
Yehovah.
interpretation. Is that interesting? Yeah.
No.
What does Jehovah Jireh mean
So Jireh is a whole
Witness.
secondary word. I'd have to look it up because I haven't memorized it.
then? Okay.
But it would mean this God in particular, that, and then an attribute.
Oh.
So you'll find that all through the Old Testament where someone says, the God that saw me, the God that heard me, the God that
One, and
is...
people were still shortening it.
Oh, no. So
Cool,
it's
cool.
some descriptor tacked onto God.
So that's the Lord who provides.
So did you just look it up?
I just looked it
Nice,
up.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Lord who provides. There you go. There's several of those. When Hagar's out in the wilderness, she says, he's the God who
Stays.
heard me or saw me. I can't remember. Sees me?
Sees
Okay.
me.
The God who sees me. So there's those kinds of names where someone tacks a quality on.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Cool.
So this is the core, though. This is the core name. And you'll often see it not translated as Yahweh because we're not talking about his name, we're just talking about him. And when it's not translated as Yahweh, you'll see it in your Bible as the Lord, but L-O-R-D, the O-R-D are small capital letters.
There's
You see like a
duos?
totally normal capital L, and then a tiny capital O, which is weird, tiny capital R, which is weird, and a tiny capital D, which is weird. So it's a capital O-R-D that's the physical height of a lowercase letter.
A tiny
Hey guys,
capital O.
I know, they call it low caps or lower caps.
Well, it's just funny because it just makes it an O, kind of.
Yeah, for an O. It's a different shape though, a different
Daniel,
amount of
did
round.
you see this? Did you see this cool new watch that I got?
Oh, was that tossed out in the middle too?
Yeah,
I just got a sandal
I
stuck
was
to my
wondering
shirt.
where
Is
that
that even
went.
normally possible?
it's mine now.
Wait, so does that count as
Congratulations.
a phone?
It doesn't, cause it's a sandal.
But if it's the last thing to come out, you will owe $1 to the
That
snack
is
bar.
true. You
Wait,
will
what?
buy the cell phone owner's snack from the snack bar.
Are there phones?
Do
in
Congratulations.
not throw anything else out in the room.
Yeah, to make the point abundantly clear, please do not throw things out. Okay, let's throw out a few more verses.
Okay.
Unless it's that wording.
We stopped on Yahweh. There we go. Okay, so he says his name. Now, there's more to this from the prior chapters, but basically, God's name was meant to encapsulate his character. We talked about it meaning I am in all directions. But when God said, I'm going to tell you my name, the word for name actually means character too. And this goes along with the Hebrew belief, and this isn't just Hebrew, this is a lot of ancient civilizations, that knowing the name of something meant you knew about the something. That you knew about the core of what it was, the soul of it, the character of it, the nature of it. And so what follows God saying his name is him displaying his character for Moses. The Lord this is verse 6. The Lord passed in front of Moses, calling out, Yahweh the Lord. This is God saying this of himself. The God of compassion and mercy. I am slow to anger and filled with unfailing love and faithfulness. I lavish unfailing love to 1,000 generations. I forgive iniquity, rebellion, and sin. But I do not excuse the guilty. I lay the sins of the parents upon their children and grandchildren. The entire family is affected, even children in the 3rd and 4th generations. So this calls out two sides of God's character. And God is often seen in this light, where he has two parts of his character that for us would be in conflict. For us humans, they would be opposites. And yet for God, they find in his perfection, perfect balance. So the first half, we see him talking about his unfailing love and his faithfulness. We see him talking about his forgiveness. Notice it lists 3 different things that he forgives, so that you don't miss the fact that he forgives all kinds of things. Not certain kinds of things, but all kinds of things. Iniquity, rebellion, and sin. So he's calling out different kinds of wrongness, different kinds of attack against God's character. Okay, real quick, yeah.
I've actually been in a devotional series about this passage in a lot of ways. Like it was the topic of like 2 weeks of the devotion.
Nice.
And something interesting that it pointed out was that in Hebrew, the order of a list matters.
Yeah.
And so the qualities that are listed first are the most defining.
Yep. You can also tell from the number of words that he puts on each one, and then the specificity of each one. So when you look and see the first half, you see that it's put first, and there's a lot more words on the first half, but also that it increases in the numbers that he is encapsulating. So he's growing that attribute as he talks about it. And then when he talks about the punishment of guilt, he starts drilling down, and he starts talking about the person who did the sin and how the sin affects others. And so he's getting more particular and more about the consequences as he goes, which is further and further from himself as he keeps talking. So it goes towards the sin, away from him, whereas the first one is all-encompassing, and it keeps encompassing more and drawing in more. So yeah, really interesting poetry when you see it come from the mouth of God. It makes you really think like how much thought goes into it when God starts describing himself. Most of the descriptions of God aren't from God. Most of the descriptions of God in the whole Bible are from us looking at him and going, oh, I love the way it really touched me when it means so much because we talk about him, and it's always from some particular experience. But when God talks about himself, comes from his own perfect knowledge of his own perfect self. And so this is one of the best descriptions of God. So look at his forgiveness, 3 different things: iniquity, rebellion, and sin. You've got iniquity. Does anyone know what iniquity is? Yeah?
Sin 2.0.
A little bit, yeah. Okay, I could see that, yeah.
In ick. Windy.
Well parsed.
So
Anybody else?
icky
Witty.
wind.
Icky wind, yes. It's farts. You've done it, Judah. You've cracked the code. James.
What happened to the donuts that live right?
I don't know. What happened to the donuts? It's so strange. So iniquity is that thing you do when you know you're going to be guilty, you know it's going to be wrong, and you just drive straight into it.
So you killed the bug who's gonna
You
get you in trouble?
decide, I want this. I want this thing that is wrong, and I will have it. So you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing is wrong. You just go on and do it. Rebellion is when someone has told you, don't do the thing. The thing is bad. Don't do it. And you're like, I'm going to do it anyways. I don't want this. And sin is when you go, oh, what have I done? Oh, I can't believe I did that. That was so wrong. Oh, I wasn't thinking.
What
And
if
so you have
were
like these
thinking?
3 stages, these 3 kinds
Were you
of wrongness. One where no one has to tell you anything. You knew the whole time it was wrong, and you did it anyways. One where it's wrong, you didn't really want to think about it too hard, you're going to kind of do it, but then someone tries to stop you, and you're like, I'm doing it anyways. And then one where you didn't necessarily think about it too hard at first. It was very automatic, very fast, very natural, and you regret it afterwards. You know it was wrong. You kind of slipped. A moment of anger rising up, a quick decision without much thought. And so this decreasing order, God says, I forgive all those. But then, after he says that, he says, but I do not excuse the guilty. It's interesting, when you go through all the stuff that he said before to Moses when he was up on the mountain for 40 days, when you go through Leviticus, which is a book we'll probably skip. I don't know if I really want to go through Leviticus with you guys. It's very repetitive and dry, and it's slow. If you want to go through Leviticus with me, go watch my video series. I just did Leviticus with the adults. It was very hard, but I went really fast. Did tons of chapters every night. It was great. Really cool study. I don't really want to do it on Sunday. It's gross. There's a lot of blood and stuff.
Cool.
Okay, well, if you want to go watch it, it's all up on YouTube. It's all on our website. So God goes through that list, but then he says, I will not excuse the guilty. So anyways, when he was with Moses for 40 days, when he's going through in Leviticus, he talks a lot about guilt and how when you do something wrong, the guilt is upon you. It is attached to you. So when you do something wrong, it is like you are stained, like you've been splashed with something in the kitchen and you haven't had a chance to change yet. And so that guilt is on you. And until you do something to remove the guilt, you go get a clean shirt, right? You go wash. Until you've done something to remove the guilt, it stays on you. Guilt will not magically fade away. You wear a dirty shirt for a week, guess what? It ain't cleaner at the end of the week.
Actually,
It's dirtier, Aiden. Unless you wash the shirt, therefore you took the shirt off, right? You've done something to remove the guilt. Unless you do that, it just gets dirtier.
What if you took
No
took a
hypotheticals.
bath?
Poo.
Who's
Poo on your
not supposed to go
hypotheticals.
inside
I
the
saw those
washer?
smiles.
What if you go in the
You're
washer?
just trying to twist my words. Quit.
No.
So,
You're not supposed to go in
dirty
you
shirt
go
gets
inside the
dirtier.
What about a bubble bath
Die.
that goes on?
It's my hypothetical. I say the dirty shirt gets dirtier the longer you wear it.
You're wrong.
And it's my hypothetical, so shush. So, God says,
You're right.
I will not, what does he say? Excuse the guilty. Now notice it's not forgive. He didn't say, I will not forgive the guilty. He didn't say that. He said, I will not excuse the guilty. And the difference between forgive and excuse. Have you ever heard your parents say, don't give me an excuse?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're like,
I never listen,
stop,
honestly.
don't say it like that. I was giving you reasons. They're like, I don't want to hear your excuses.
They're not
But they're
excuses.
reasons. And they're like, no, I don't want to hear any excuses.
And then I tell them.
The importance
Or they
of the
think
word
you're
excuse cannot be stressed enough.
Don't.
An excuse is the reasons that do not change what you did. An excuse is the reasons that do not change what you did. You can say they kicked me first, and that is a reason for what you did. But guess what?
They kick me
it doesn't change that you kick them back.
But what if I punch
It
them?
does not matter. The fact that you were kicked first does not change, it does not alter the what you did. The what you did was wrong regardless of the reason. It's still an excuse because it does not change what you did. Now, something can change what you did, right? Now, if, for instance, you hit someone with your car because you dodged someone else, right? You saw someone in the road, so you swerved and then you hit something else. That's not an excuse now. That is a legitimate reason. You would not have swerved off the road and hit the other thing if there wasn't someone standing in the middle of the road.
But if there wasn't somebody
You
kicking
get what I
me-
mean? Like, that's a legitimate reason. It's not an excuse. That is, I was saving a life. I'm sorry I hit the telephone pole. I'm sorry I crashed your mailbox. I was trying to save a life. That's a reason. Okay? That's a reason.
What if you killed
Revenge, they kicked me first. Yeah, you didn't have to kick them, did you? You
That's
had a choice.
no,
Kicking
that-
them back was not the only choice you could have
You had a
made.
choice. You could
It
slam
could
it
be
be self-defense.
Yes, correct. However, most instances where parents are talking to a child who kicked a child after being kicked, it was not self-defense. There was a lot of other options besides kicking back they could have chosen.
And
A
all
lot of other options.
and
In
all
fact,
of
if you
them
take a
were
self-defense
self-defense.
course, typically what you're taught
That's
is not kick them back.
self-defense.
It's lay them out on the ground and go get help.
Lay them on the ground.
Oh,
It's
right,
it's get away. That's the self-defense you're taught typically in a self-defense class.
I know, but like.
Does that make sense? Like, there's options. When you're driving a car at speed and someone runs in front of your car, there are other options besides swerving, but they're limited and difficult. It's trickier than they kicked me.
I'd rather
It's
kill
not
him
the
than
same
kill
category.
They were coming after me, so I decided to gun it and ram into them first.
Yeah, that's a different
Some
category.
guy looked at me funny, so I
Okay.
punched him in the throat.
So God says, I will not
idea.
excuse the guilty. The difference between forgive and excuse is this. You go and you steal something from a store,
And you kill them.
and the store says, hey, give that back. And you give it back.
And
Now,
stores can't.
can they still call the cops on you?
no.
Yes, they can. They absolutely can. You stole it. They can call the cops on you.
But they can't hold
They
me
could also
down.
choose to not call the cops on you. Okay, so you gave it back. That's forgiveness.
Excuse me.
That's forgiveness. Now, you gave it back. That's great. Excuse would be you stole it and they just watch you leave. There's no forgiveness there. There's no transaction. There's no back and forth. There's no you apologizing. There's no them getting what back, back what they was taken from them. They just go, ah. The other day I was at Lowe's and I was leaving, and behind me, because like I've already walked out of the store, I hear the door alarm go off, like when you walk out with something that you didn't buy yet. And I see this guy, and he's got like a drill or some big tool like still in its box, and he's walking like this. And a lady who works there is like in the area near me. She's like working on carts or something, and she says, "Sir, can I help you? Sir, can I help you? Sir, can I help you? Sir!" And he just starts running at full speed as fast as he can. Like, didn't turn, didn't answer, "No, I'm good." Like, nothing. Just ran. And she, like, kind of gave him a look like, ugh. And then just went back to what she was doing.
That's what happens.
Phil,
all
follow
the
him and
time.
get his license
So-
plate number.
That right there,
I would run after
she
him.
just excused it.
Yeah, get his license
She didn't
plate
call the police. She didn't chase him down and tackle him. You know?
You're not allowed to
She
do that
didn't get in front of him, like box him in,
Is that
make
still
him change his
allowed?
mind.
No, you can't.
Tackle
You
people?
can't.
I'm not even gonna get into it. There's so much I could say. No. Not even going down that road. So God says, I will not excuse the guilty. What that means is, someone does something, he has the option of forgiving them. He has the option of forgiving them. And I think if you've seen God forgive someone, like we did in the prior chapters, you know that one of the first things he looks for is a contrite heart. Someone who is sorrowful over what they've done. Who actually goes to him and wants forgiveness. Likewise, what we also saw in the last few chapters was that when someone doesn't show that, when someone doesn't have that, God just says, okay, punishment time. And so he doesn't excuse the guilty, but he can forgive. He can forgive. So seek his forgiveness. Then it gets into this part that I know really trips up some people. He says, I lay the sins of the parents upon their children and grandchildren. The entire family is affected, even children in the third and fourth generations. Now think about who he's talking to. He's not talking to Joe, who works at Burger Shack. He's talking to Moses, who runs a country.
Same thing.
Good point.
Every fry
Joe
counts,
is
man.
all
Fries are
powerful.
people too.
Every fry counts. Every word.
You underestimate Joe.
Next time we go out to eat, I'm bringing little googly eyes. Stick them on there.
You underestimate Joe.
So, Moses runs a country. Think about the kinds of punishments that God has had to dole out in this book, maybe in Genesis. When God punishes, when it's God's job to punish, when it's not left to a human, right? It's not left to the courts, it's not left to the police, it's not left to the king. When it ends up on God's plate, and he's like, okay, it's my job now. Typically, we're not talking about an individual in this life. Typically, what we're talking about is a nation. We're talking about a giant group of people that have all collectively sinned. So, for instance, these people, the Israelites, just left Egypt, where the whole nation of Egypt was going along with, they're all slaves. They all have to do whatever we say. They all have to work basically for free. The whole nation was going along with this. So when God punishes, what does he do? Does he punish the slave drivers? Does he punish just Pharaoh?
Everyone who was in charge of capturing those slaves.
At this point, it had been
And ruling
generations of slavery. Not just captured last week, so you could name all the capturers. It had been going on for over 100 years. All the original
Will then kill all
capturers were
those
dead.
hundreds of people or infect them with
He
some plague or
punished the
something?
country. He punished all of Egypt, the whole country. But what's interesting is there's moments throughout the punishment where it's mentioned that if you wanted to escape the punishment, all you had to do was this.
Set
And the this was left out on the table for everyone to partake in. Anyone to partake in. So anyone in the nation of Egypt could at some point say, last punishment was a doozy. I'm really sorry about the slavery thing. I give up. Forgive me, God. All of my sins are laid bare. You know what I've done. You know what part I had in this. Forgive me. Me and my household, we're sorry. We'll let our slaves go. Please forgive us. At any point, anyone could partake. At any point, anyone could lay before God and just say, we're awful. We've done terrible things. Forgive us. And you see it at the last moment. This last punishment is not going to be life is hard, life is harder. The last punishment in Egypt was people going to die. And God makes it abundantly clear, if you don't want that to happen in your house, just do this. Have this special meal. Put the blood of the lamb from the meal on your doorpost. You're safe. Anyone could partake in that. And so you see the perfect balance of God's justice and mercy, where he says the mercy is out there for all to take hold of, but the justice is coming. But anyone can take hold of that mercy. That's the perfect balance of God. Then you see it in Israel too. Right before the punishment for the golden calf scenario, he says, okay, everyone who wants to be faithful to God. He didn't say everyone who's innocent. He said, everyone who wants to be faithful to God, come here. And like 3,000 guys, or no, the tribe of Levi showed up. That's right, they killed 3,000 guys. 3,000 were punished that day. But anyone could have come and been the punisher, even if you were previously one of the guilty people. You could have come to show, I'm sorry, I want to follow God. And instead, like, one tribe showed up.
Actually,
One.
One out of 12.
full.
One tribe.
One. Oh, I thought you meant one person. I was like,
No. So
Oh, no,
Israel had
all of
12 tribes.
Egypt? What?
Kind of like
Faith,
America
have
has like
faith.
50 states. They had like 12
Keep-
tribes. One tribe showed up.
I'm a good butcher. This is
They
a
meant one person out of all of Egypt.
No, not one
Like,
person.
Why? No.
Not one from each tribe. No.
Dude.
Okay. Then verse 8. After Moses sees this amazing display of God's character from the mouth of God, verse 8, Moses immediately threw himself to the ground and worshiped. And he said, O Lord, if it is true that I have found favor with you, then please travel with us. This was his whole cry and prayer last week in the last chapter. He did this whole long speech begging, pleading, please travel with us. Do not just send some angel. Do not just send us off into the wilderness to find it on our own. Please, God, travel with us. Yes, this is a stubborn and rebellious people, but please forgive our iniquity and our sins. Claim us as your own special possession. So God's character, when a nation does wrong, he punishes the nation. What does Moses say? Yeah, we we've done that. We've been bad. But he, the leader of the nation, is going before God and saying, God, forgive us. He's trying to be the representative of the whole nation of Israel, and he's begging for forgiveness. And he's asking for more than forgiveness. He's asking for blessing after that forgiveness. Verse 10, the Lord replied, listen, I am making a covenant with you in the presence of all your people. I will perform miracles that have never been performed anywhere in all the earth or in any nation. And all the people around you will see the power of the Lord, the awesome power I will display for you. But listen carefully to everything I command you today. Then I will go ahead of you and drive out the Amorites, Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. That's like the whole domino line. Like all the way from here to there. Just going to knock them all down. Pretty dang cool. Verse 12. Be very careful never to make a treaty with the people who live in the land where you are going. If you do, you will follow their evil ways and be trapped. Instead, you must break down their pagan altars, smash their sacred pillars, and cut down their Asherah poles. You must worship no other gods, for the Lord, whose name is jealous. Remember, names and character? Names in like the core of your being, those are synonymous here, especially in this passage as well as in others, but especially in this passage. Whose very name is jealous, is a God who is jealous about his relationship with you. God is jealous about his relationship with you. Now, one of the things I mentioned earlier is when you look at the attributes of God, they're typically in balance, and they're typically things that we could not both do at once. They're typically things that don't work the same for us humans as they do for God. And the same is true of jealousy. When you are jealous as a human, it is almost always bad. There's so few exceptions. It's hard to think of jealous as a neutral word. And so when God says he's jealous, it's kind of hard to think about that in like a godly way. Like, in what way is God jealous?
He wants gold.
See, because like the typical way you would say this is, well, you know, jealous for something that's not yours is bad. Jealous for something that is yours is good. But then you look at like little kids sharing their toys and it all kind of breaks down. If you have something that you could share and it would be good to share, and you said you don't want to because you're jealous of your own things, it would still be bad, even though it's yours. So in what way is God jealous? Well, think about it like this. What is he talking about in this passage? He's talking about worshiping fake gods. And the worship of the fake gods in this area, things like Asherah, things like Baal, the worship in and of itself were sinful acts. They didn't just go to a church of Baal and sing songs like we go to a church of the real God and sing songs. They didn't just go to like the poles of Asherah and worship Asherah like the same way that we come to church and worship God. The actual what you do to worship those gods were bad things. Each individual act was a sin. Not just that you were doing it for the wrong God. Does that make sense? Like, it would be as if you went to church and the worship you were doing was stealing money from people in the building and then going and putting it in the agape box. Like, yeah, I love you, God. I got you some money. It's like, it doesn't matter which God it would be sin because you're stealing. That's how it was with Baal. That's how it was with Asherah. So God says, I'm jealous of you and your worship. Because the alternative.
He was jealous of the fake gods?
God is jealous of the Israelites and the Israelites' worship. Them worshiping him versus them worshiping other gods, fake gods. Does that make sense? Their worship is what he's jealous of, them. Because he knows if they go off and they worship those other things, that what they're doing is wrong, and in fact will actually be hurting themselves and others. The sins they would be committing in worshiping those other gods would be things that damage the community, damage the individuals. And so God says, I'm jealous of you, I'm jealous of your worship. But in effect, as he says that, as he commands them in the fact that they should worship him and how to worship him, he is commanding them to do something that is good for them and to avoid these things that are bad for them. And so again, you can see the balance of a holy God. When he is jealous of you, of your time, of your worship, it is also, in the same instance, God caring for you and wanting the best for you. Does that make sense? That's how perfectly balanced God is. That his jealousy evokes the best things in your life. It creates the best for you. just his desire for you to be close to him. And so again, his jealousy ends up being good, even though for us it's so difficult to make it something good. It almost always ends up being bad. So the closest thing I could make an analogy to would actually be in parenting. I am jealous of my daughter's attention and obedience, that she would hear my words when I speak to her, and that she would obey them. Because what I'm asking her to do is good for her. And if she does not give me attention, she does not hear me, and she then disobeys me, it will be worse for her sister, worse for the whole family, worse for the rest of her life. And so that's like the closest instance where my jealousy is actually a good thing. I really want her attention when I speak to her.
Could there be a possibility that if she disobeys you, the house could burn down?
Oh,
For
totally.
sure.
Absolutely. Don't play with electrical things. Don't mess with stuff you don't know how to use.
Don't
There's
play
lots
with
of
lights.
electrical things you could leave on that would start a fire.
Excuse me?
Don't play with the stove.
Don't stick a penny in a half plugged in socket and almost burn down your whole school.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't stick a toy frying pan on the actual stove and turn it on. Melt the frying pan, start some flames, fill the house with gross plastic smoke. There's all kinds of things she could do. And my jealousy for her attention in those moments would protect her from those things. Closest thing I can think of. All right, God said, don't make a treaty with them, and he's going to reprise that theme in the next paragraph. He says, verse 15, you must not make a treaty with any kind with the people living in the land. They lust after their gods, offering sacrifices to them. They will invite you to join them in their sacrificial meal. So like, come on over for a barbecue. Sounds innocent enough until you realize what the barbecue's about.
You getting barbecued.
Well, sometimes. And you will go with them. Then you will accept their, so like you become friends, you're all buddy-buddy,
Don't
you're
worry,
just
this means
neighbors.
only from
What
what
comes
I was-
after that? Verse 16, then you will accept their daughters, who sacrifice to other gods, as wives for your sons. And they will seduce your sons to commit adultery against me by worshiping other gods. You must not make any gods of molten metal for yourselves. So God oftentimes in the Old Testament, he uses this analogy again and again. It recurs all through the Old Testament of the nation's relationship with him, so the whole group of people worshiping him, is like a marriage between two individuals. So he uses that analogy over and over again, where he is the husband, they are collectively his wife. And to then go worship a false god is like cheating then on your husband. Does that make sense? That's how God talks about it. He uses an analogy over and over and over again. So he says that to worship these other gods would be committing adultery, cheating on your husband. So he uses it here. He'll use it plenty of other times. I don't want you guys to get confused. He's not talking about like sleeping with a golden statue or something. That doesn't make any sense. He's talking about that worship of fake gods being like cheating on a spouse. That it's serious. It totally breaks the relationship and destroys trust. And it is not something you can just brush off. You can't say, oh, you cheated on me. Oh, well. It doesn't work like that. A spouse cheating on a spouse alters the relationship fundamentally. It is a big deal. It is a big thing. And so God's basically saying, you worship a fake God. It's not a little thing. This is a humongous deal. Verse 18, you must celebrate the festival of unleavened bread. So, A, don't worship in all these wrong ways. Don't worship all these wrong things. But now, B, he's going to start to specify, how do you worship? What kind of worship is good? Celebrate the festival of unleavened bread. For 7 days the bread you eat must be made without yeast, just as I commanded you. Celebrate the festival annually at the appointed time in early spring in the month of Abib. For that is the anniversary of your departure from Egypt. It's kind of cool. I got you out of slavery. Celebrate the anniversary. Verse 19, the firstborn of every animal belongs to me, including the firstborn males from your herds of cattle and your flocks of sheep and goats. A firstborn donkey may be bought back from the Lord by presenting a lamb or young goat in its place. So donkeys were used as farm animals by them, but donkeys were not on the list of clean things you could go and sacrifice. So there's like a weird crossover of lists. Most of their farm animals happened to be clean, and so you could actually just sacrifice them directly. But some things were considered unclean, therefore they couldn't enter the temple, like donkeys. Horses would have fallen into this category, but this point in history, this point on the map, they didn't have horses. So that's not mentioned. it would probably fall in the same exact category as a donkey. They just didn't have horses. So he doesn't talk
How
about it.
expensive is a horse?
For them, it'd be infinitely
no,
expensive.
No, like here.
I don't know. I don't do horses.
That varies widely.
Yeah, they vary widely. Okay, that, I believe
On
that.
what you're
You have
buying
to
it for
buy a
and what kind of
potion,
horses.
become
Gotcha.
one.
What's like the cheapest a horse could go for? You think?
Oh, like $100 sometimes.
Oh, really? Wow. Is he like almost dead? Like, what does that get you?
That's what I'm saying.
He might not make it on the trailer.
Or free if it's like abandoned. It's
Right,
just, it's
yeah.
taken care of.
Yeah,
That's
he needs help.
expensive.
He's gonna need all the vet bills. Okay, so you can do this for a donkey. You just sacrifice something else in its place. But if you do not buy it back, this is kind of harsh. You must break its neck.
What?
However,
Wait, what?
you must buy back every firstborn son. So literally, it comes down to this. He says, every firstborn is mine. This is God speaking. Every firstborn is mine. I don't care if it's a male son, a male cow, a male donkey, a male sheep. Like, the list goes on infinitely. If you own stuff and there is a firstborn male, it's mine.
What if it's a Barbie doll?
That's not born, so it doesn't count. So,
Actually.
no. Also, this is thousands of years ago, so
No Barbie dolls.
no Barbie dolls. So it's God's. So either A, you give it to God. Here you go, God, it's yours now. Bring it to the temple, sacrifice it, it's his. Or if it's not something you can or not something you want to sacrifice, like your human son, then you sacrifice something in its place. However, God always sticks in exceptions because not everyone fits into the norm. What if you have a firstborn donkey, but you're dirt poor? And you don't own a single sheep or cow or anything to give in its place.
You
Do you
get.
just get a free pass? No, God says it's still my donkey. So you don't get to keep it. You have to kill it.
Unless you burn a penny?
No pennies.
Easy.
It's kind of
Break
crazy.
the donkey's
But at the
neck.
same time, what he's doing is he's saying you're all under the rule. The rule applies to you all. But if your situation varies, then the rule varies too. However, you don't get to break the rule. Interesting. So it really is his, even if you're poor. Yeah, James.
Did you
Is
know
this a
I'm
crazy hypothetical?
Did you know I'm a butcher that works at Petworks?
That's dark.
Yeah.
Irrelevant.
No, it's very
Do we have a
relevant.
Petworks?
Yes.
Yeah,
We had a
My dog
Petco.
went there yesterday and she
It's by
got
the old hometown
We have both.
buffet.
They closed, I
That's
thought.
Petco.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, you
That's-
mean
That was
Petco.
Petco.
Pet Works. Pet Works
Yeah, we
is
don't have
by.
Petworks.
I had to put down a
It's in the
quarter
almond
yesterday.
orchard next
Yes.
to Round
Oh.
Table.
Oh! I didn't realize we had a pet store there still.
It's
like
like
in
a
the
dog
border.
salon.
Yeah, I thought that thing
Pet
closed a
And
long
there's
time
like
ago.
guinea pigs.
So I
and
got the
Cool.
moment.
All right.
They
Guess
have
they still exist.
They sell guinea pigs and birds and dog treats and
and you can
They're
take
known
your
for
dog
selling
there.
rats.
So why do they sell dog treats if they don't sell dogs?
also
Apparently, pets are
we
smart
dog
workers at a
treats.
company.
For a bat.
And they,
Okay.
we got to give her
Finishing verse 28. No one may appear before me without an offering. Verse 21. You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work, but on the 7th day you must stop working, even during the seasons of plowing and harvest. 22. You must celebrate the festival of harvest with the first crop of the wheat harvest, and celebrate the festival of the final harvest at the end of the harvest season. 3 times each year, every man of Israel must appear before the sovereign, the Lord, the God of Israel. I will drive out the other nations ahead of you and expand your territory, so no one will covet and conquer your land while you appear before the Lord your God 3 times each year. Interesting that he puts that provision there at the end, because as a nation person, as like a leader of a country, knowing on the calendar every year exactly when every male would just like all move to one place in the nation, and it was in the middle, therefore every border unprotected 3 times a year, is critical information. And this is supposed to happen every single year, like for the rest of time. So theoretically, the surrounding nations could figure this out at any point, even if it's 10 years down the road or 20 years down the road, and they could still use the information because it's still good next year. It's the same day every year that they're all going to move away from the border and leave the border unprotected. That's kind of a freaky, scary thing if you're like the king who has to deal with that stuff. Our borders are unprotected 3 times a year, the same day every year, completely. Isn't that freaky, scary to think about? Like, it's kind of weird that God would say, just leave your borders. But he says, it's okay though, because I'm going to watch your borders. Okay, Jeremiah.
I'm picturing that in Age of Empires.
Just pull back all your guys. Broadcast. I'm pulling back all my guys. That would not go well. Yes, Faith.
We were on a road trip, and we stayed at a hotel that was kind of close to the border.
Mm-hmm.
And
Maybe that's how you don't get your question answered.
our mom
Never
was
happened to me.
telling us to stay close, cause she didn't want us to get kidnapped and then across the border, gone forever. So, but
That sounds freaky.
but James thought the hotel wall was like the wall.
Oh, like the name. This side Mexico, this side America. Really, it's just like this side hotel, this side convenience store. Yes, Aiden, who has no Bible.
No, Judah first.
Right there. No, he stole my money.
No, he did not.
Yes,
Judah,
he did.
anything stolen today, you gotta give back.
Today, but tomorrow not.
No, I didn't say that.
Judah, give me my money.
Yeah, he never specified when.
Good point. End of service.
So
Okay.
He has my
where
money.
did we go?
what are you gonna do with it right now?
Verse 25.
Look
You
at
must
it.
not offer the blood of my sacrificial offerings together with any baked goods containing yeast, and none of the meat of the Passover sacrifice may be kept over until the next morning. As you harvest the crops, bring the very best of the first harvest to the house of the Lord your God. You must not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. Then the Lord said to Moses, write down all these instructions, for they represent the terms of the covenant I am making with you and with Israel. Most of these are rehashes. They're restatements. This is a summary of all that came before. Because when he was up on the mountain the last time for 40 days, we got like 6 chapters out of that exchange. We got a lot. So this is like covenant meeting 2.0. He's just summarizing. He's just covering the basics. Then 28. Moses remained there on the mountain with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. In all that time he ate no bread and drank no water, and the Lord wrote the terms of the covenant, the 10 commandments, on the stone tablets. When Moses came down Mount Sinai, there was a golden calf waiting for him.
Whoa.
No, I'm just kidding. You guys aren't reading along with me. You would
It
know
was
that's not what it
diamond.
says.
I know what it says. It says three times a year. men
Verse
shall eat.
29.
Well, we have different translations, so I mean.
Verse 29, when Moses came down Mount Sinai carrying the 2 stone tablets inscribed with the terms of the covenant, he wasn't aware that his face had become radiant because he had spoken to the Lord. So when Aaron and the people of Israel saw the radiance of Moses' face, they were afraid to come near him. Now keep in mind, the last time he talked with God, he said to God, well, the last time written, I don't know who's the last time. He said, God, I want to see you. And God's like, I'll show you my goodness. And he covers Moses, walks past him, and lets him see like the after effect, the glow. So last time he talked with God, he got to like see God, basically, at least the edge of him. And his face didn't glow. He was normal when he came out from that experience. This time he goes up to meet with God, 40 days. Well, he did that once before. The last time he met with God for 40 days, his face didn't glow. He came back normal. This time he went to go look, and he didn't see anything. He went to go speak, and nothing really all that different was said. I mean, we got the summary. It's almost the same thing that was said before. What was different this time?
It was words.
God showed him his character.
Same thing.
God showed him his nature. God showed him who he was. God spoke about his own existence. And when he did that to Moses, Moses began to glow, literally with light. You guys ever put like a flashlight in your mouth?
No.
Yes. Especially in the dark.
We humans weren't
then
really
my
made
face
to
glows.
glow. When you stick a flashlight in your mouth, you don't get prettier. I'm sorry to say. That doesn't make you better looking.
And then I walk into
You
the
look
kitchen.
gross. You look weird. Like, there's all these blood vessels and like, it's all red now. Your skin's the wrong color. It's just weird.
I look bad.
So if you kind of imagine Moses glowing, I'm not thinking of like Moses becoming heavenly. Kind of like something that's not heavenly pretending to be heavenly. It's kind of like a clown dressing up as your mom. You just leave the building.
Why would you?
You wouldn't ask questions. You wouldn't explore how this happened. You just be gone. No chances. Do not stick around. Just out of there. It's just weird.
Horrible example.
So Moses walks up, and it's old gray Moses with his big old beard, and he's just glowing like a flashlight.
How do you know he has a beard?
You put that away. It's culturally what they had back then.
No.
Put it.
How do you know his hair was gray?
Stop that. And so Moses ends up getting a veil. Yeah, Jeremiah.
You sure he didn't just drink too much of the gold water?
It's very possible, but that was meant to be a punishment, and he didn't really take part in the calf thing, so I don't think so. Yeah. Yep. You do not have your hand up.
Stretching.
Ah, okay. Sorry,
It's
Judith.
been a long time since that's happened.
That's fair.
I was
It ended
trying to
school.
find Exodus, and I found Psalm 117, and it's only this long.
It's like the shortest psalm.
Yeah.
That's cool. James.
When God like walked past me, you saw the edge. Did Moses like tackle him? Just a tackle of God.
No, that's Jacob.
Okay.
All right. You guys want to find out what the heck I'm talking about? Go read the middle of
I
Genesis.
I push him off the mountain.
Okay, cool. Moses remained there on the mountain. Oh, we read that. 29. When Moses came. Oh, wait, we read that. 30. So when Aaron and the people of Israel saw the radiance of Moses' face, they were afraid to come near him. But Moses called out to them and asked Aaron and all the leaders of the community to come over, and he talked with them. Then all the people of Israel approached him, and Moses gave them all the instructions the Lord had given him on Mount Sinai. That's what he was supposed to do the last time he came off the mountain. Instead, he threw down rocks and punished people. So, it's going better so far than the last time. Verse 33, when Moses finished speaking with them, he covered his face with a veil. But whenever he went into the tent of meeting to speak with the Lord, he would remove the veil until he came out again. Then he would give the people whatever instructions the Lord had given him, and the people of Israel would see the radiant glow of his face. So he put the veil back over his face until he returned to speak with the Lord. He spent so much time face to face with God, he had to start covering his face like the tabernacle was covered. Isn't that a weird thought?
So with the Bible.
He spent so much time in God's presence, he started to actually radiate
God's
like God.
presence.
Isn't that a weird thought? That when you spend time with God, you become like him?
No.
Little bit at a time. Little bit at a time. And Moses has hit this point in his life where he's spending so much time with God that he's really becoming like God. That's cool. It's a little scary. God's power is an amazing, mighty, giant amount of thing. It's just so much. The fact that it could infect Moses and he could be carrying that holiness, even a fraction of it with him, is kind of intense. And so I get the veil. I get it. It's a lot. It's a lot. And remember, the people have been bad. The people have disobeyed. The people have been stubbornly rebellious. So when they think of approaching God, they're not thinking of good person going to good God. That's not necessarily their mindset. They're thinking of guilty people humbly maybe approaching God. So the fact that there's the holiness of God coming out with Moses every time he comes out, it's kind of, okay, yeah, no, it's fine, right? We were forgiven? Okay, yeah, pretty sure we were forgiven. Okay. It's a little tense. Makes him a little nervous. But God gives him the covenant, and the whole point of the covenant was stay within these bounds, stay within these rules, and then keep coming. Come to me. That's the whole point of God's covenant with them, is that they could come to him, they could approach him, they could go talk to him, they could go worship him. Next week we're going to get into the worship. We're going to see actually I'm not sure how next week's going to go. Next week's going to be interesting. We'll see. Might make a video for you guys. I don't know. I'm going to be gone next week. So stay tuned. I'll text your parents and let them know what's up. We haven't really decided exactly how next Sunday will be.
How are you going to be gone?
It happens.
leaving.
I can't always
How are
control
you going to
it.
be gone if you can't be gone?
That's a good question, Andy. Anyways, so the next chapter, whenever that
So why
occurs,
was everyone mad at you when you said you would be gone?
because they didn't like it.
Vacation's important.
Thank you, Faith. Weren't you the one who was mad when they said it
I was
gonna be gone?
pretending.
Oh, I see. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Okay.
Of course.
Chapter.
So in the next chapter, we're going to see the worship described. Here's how the worship goes, and then we're going to get to see the response. Do they take hold of it? Do they say, okay, let's do it God's way? Do they say, that doesn't sound like my kind of worship? They're going to do it their way? Are they going to say, that sounds hard, let's go back and worship gold things? What are they going to do?
The sun.
How is it going to get treated? And then I want you guys to be thinking about that. If God said to you, this is how I want you to worship me. This right here. He like writes it down, he describes it, he says this. This is the one way I want you to worship me. If God said that to you, and what he said wasn't your favorite, it wasn't your style, it wasn't the way that's natural for you, it wasn't what you like, but it's what he asked for, would you still do it?
Yeah.
Of course.
Are you sure?
What are we talking about?
But do you know what he said?
What are you
Who's
talking about?
Moses?
Who
The
said?
way God said, I would like to be worshipped.
It depends what it is.
So what's the
See,
question?
that's the interesting part. It's hard to say yes when you don't know what it is. And so that's kind of the point. The people were told, here's what you got to do. Some of them are really excited to sign up for it. Some of them are really excited to, yes, let's do it. And some of them are not.
Some of them are ugly too.
That's really not the point. I'm sure statistically the bell curve has to end somewhere, but not the point. So
I'm guessing that a lot of people were ugly then. Just a guess, given the
so not the point.
Half of them.
Everything
What we
else-
saw in this chapter, though, was Moses' heart. Moses' heart was first and foremost for God, but then secondly for the people. And he wanted to connect the two. So God chose well when he chose Moses, because that's what God needed out of the leader. He needed someone who loved God and loved the people enough to want to connect them to God. And so that's what we're going to see in the next chapter, is that connection, because that's what worship is all about. It's you coming before God. All right, let's pray. Lord, we thank you that you have welcomed us in, that you have made the way, that the sacrifice was paid for us, that we don't have to come to you by the blood of lambs and bulls, that we can just go before you because of what Jesus did. Thank you, Lord. Thank you that you've shown us this is how you want to be worshipped, in spirit and in truth. Help us, Lord, to chase after that, to seek you earnestly, to give you all of ourselves. Help us, Lord, to have that heart that wants to do what you want, that wants to seek what you have for us. Give us that heart, Lord. Help us to worship you all through this week, not just in song, but in our very lives. In our giving, in our time, in our thoughts, in the way we treat people, in our attitude about things. But Lord, most of all, how we approach you. Help us, Lord, to have that heart that wants to do it your way. With our heads bowed, with our eyes closed, if there's someone here right now and you need to say to God, I want your forgiveness, I want to come before you, I want to have a life with you. If you want to do that right now, you know you need to do that right now, I would just like you to raise up your hand. Just to say, yeah, I want that right now. Me. God sees your heart. He knows what you're going through. He knows what you're thinking. He knows you. But I don't. I barely know you guys. Even the ones that I know the best. And so that's why I need the hand. If you need that right now, put up your hand for me so I can see it. I want to pray with you. I want to walk you into this relationship with God. Like Moses had that heart for the people and for God and to connect the two, I have that heart for you guys. And so I want to connect you with God. So if you want that right now, just raise up your hand. So you can start that relationship with him. Start talking to him every day. Start living life with him. Get a new life from him. An eternal life. One that goes right on past this earthly death and right on into heaven. Anyone today? All right, well, Lord, bless these middle schoolers as they go. Bless these leaders. Guide them through this week until we come back together again. We ask that all in your name, Jesus. Amen. All right, if you have not taken the poll of the topics, go do it. It's on the iPad.
Excuse me, can I have my dollar that's fake?
Okay.
Can I have my fake dollar?
It's a fake dollar?
Yeah.
Hey guys, bring your chairs back
That's
around.
the
You're the
point.
ones that moved them.
Technically, I am not real.
Alicia, you guys have fake dollars?
I'm still playing, so don't play without me, children of life.
You guys accept fake dollars?
So I got James, turn your chair around, please.
All right, guys. Yeah, put the chairs back the way. Oh no, actually, if you've already taken the poll, help me with the chairs. We're gonna stack them up.
I'll help
They're
you
doing
later when they're done.
they're doing head start. What's it called? Early start. Some kind of school thing here in the next week.
Why am I always third place?
Can I tell you about the?
Yeah, please, please, please. So what I was worried about was, are you gonna get the Legos at low enough cost to begin with that you can turn like a real profit out the other side, or are you paying retail? Going to the store and buying it?
See, they want to play. Two other people want to play.
Are you responsible for the color change?
I do not agree in any way.
They did pretty cool. They took our like
Aiden, we're restarting,
the
okay?
rest of the hall. So that matters.
I know my story. You, me, Jim,
Go in the bathroom and see the
Jolisa, and Larry.
How do we do like this?
Yeah, let's just go around. Fine, Jane, Judah, and that one.
Great you.
Let's just go this way. We can go zigzag.
Yeah, basically. I went to
James
Costco
and me.
and I thought I could-
Hey Judah, please pick up your Arizona can.
James, your dog
I
wants.
thought I already
And
did
then I
that
realized
twice.
Costco's never selling out. I thought at some point Costco would sell out, and then they'd be worth on eBay.
Let's see.
But then like they never sold out. They've been selling them for over a year at that price. Wild.
They're all in that.
So yeah, I ended up with a bunch of Legos. Couldn't sell them on eBay to save my life. So anyways, how are you getting your Legos?
So I'm just at the line. Now, I actually found. So you know those blind bags that always happen?
Who am I going to?
Okay, just like get a bunch of randos.
Who's next?
They have 3 series of them, but now the first series.
Oh, interesting.
At least the first one. So,
You're very welcome. Thank you for taking the poll.
but there's this one place in
Well, we might need to restart.
Oh yeah, does he still sell blind bags?
Now you know
He
I.
sells some of the series 1 ones.
First, second,
Oh,
third.
And I
nice.
have the packaging and
Are we just restarting or what?
Okay.
Yeah, they're series 1.
Yeah.
And then using them.
Hey, wait.
Okay.
Then
Who's
keeping them.
is that girl? Is that girl?
But then I just have
You
a
are
couple.
C.
I'm filling up the parts.
Wait,
of
it's
them.
her, right?
Okay.
You said first, second, third.
So
You know what, let's just play.
eventually I can just easily reassemble them and sell them for a ton.
That makes sense.
Since they're already ultra rare.
First, second, third.
Not sure what that means.
Wait,
Yeah.
what? That doesn't make sense.
I'm actually
Who's
also
going?
making a custom set.
Okay, we're going the
Oh,
other
yeah?
way, starting with me.
So I found that
I'm happy you did that.
I still have to
Wait.
pay a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff back.
Yeah.
Sure. So
There's
you've borrowed money for this?
Yeah, I've had like a $50 loan. And I paid off this one set.
So what do you stand to make if you sell all your Mario kits?
What?
What kind of
No, hit.
income would you get if you just multiply your Mario kit price by the number of Mario kits you have?
What did I do? I suck at this.
Does
What?
that make sense?
See?
So like how many kits can you make
Why
right
don't
now?
we just
Wait,
wait
but the
until it
thing
goes
is-
in?
Wait, where are we stacking
I
those
can
already?
Whose Bible is this?
Are they setting up?
I have already.
So they're doing school early start thingy
Oh.
while I'm gone.
Oh, got it. Got
So
it.
it may be that next week you actually do have to set up chairs on a Sunday or something.
Right.
If we do like a video or a zoom in.
Let's go.
But
Are we restarting? Just
I
yeah,
don't
let's
know
go.
yet.
I was like, we're a week early.
Yeah, I don't know yet, so I wanted to go ahead and get
Got it.
the chairs stacked in case.
Instead
Am I
of just being a
still
little kid who has
No,
a
not
knife or
anymore.
something.
Sorry,
We're
what?
going this way.
With the Lego Mario sets,
You mixed my colors up?
I just
Yeah, I
found
did.
to
How
actually
could you?
just pay for everything myself. And it had an extra
Thank you for
good
stacking
amount
chairs.
of money.
You're welcome.
So,
In a way, in a way.
Okay, so
I mostly get the Lego Mario sets because I like the Lego Mario sets.
that makes sense. So like what price would you sell one set for?
So I average around lots of lower priced ones. So let me see. I have $30, $30, $20, $10. But then I also have this one $50.
Okay, so maybe an average would be like 25 when you add all of it.
Oh, that's
What,
not.
He did that stuff. That's what That stuff.
No. I don't not believe. See? I don't not believe it. Dude, you're always not believing it. Get a C. C.
Fail.
No, it didn't fail.
Who's next?
That's me. I'm pretty sure hitting it is not allowed.
That means you triple your money. That's not bad. Then it should.
It stopped.
I guess it's a test
I stopped earlier.
Dude.
I've already paid for everything as well.
Right. So it's like down to can you at least break even, and then everything you sell after the $50 mark is just extra profit.
I don't know, but it's a water for them.
I believe
and come up with something to make out of your leftovers. Because I'm sure not every piece that comes in the blind bag is going to go well in a Mario set. Oh, you just squished it! Haley, how could you?
Just serious.
That was probably mine. I was eating
I have no idea whose watch this was, but it's mine now.
It literally just was found?
Well, no, it was thrown into the middle, and I took it.
Oh, today?
Uh-huh.
How did we say get thrown and we don't know whose it is?
I know if you done all the math, I earn $106 for it.
Oh, nice. You did already work it out.
So yeah, I earn
All of these kids
I earn
just take each other's stuff and throw it in the middle, so I never know whose is what.
Right, because the guy who threw it probably isn't the owner.
Yeah. You shut up. Okay.
There you go. I was hoping that would solve the mystery. We're on the phone with the winner.
Oh, you gave me my first one. That's awesome. Okay. So
Oh. Oh, whoa.
Oh, that's a letter. That's a letter. Oh, that's two letters.
That's not 2 letters. I can only get 1 letter in one turn. You can't get 2 letters in one turn.
Yeah, exactly. You can just keep throwing.
Wait, no, it's already a CRU anyways. 'Cause you
Yeah,
have CRU.
yeah, it's a CRU. Isn't it James' turn? Oh, you're up.
See you later. Sorry.
Yeah, because I have to go restart.
For Bogo. Hit everywhere except the bottom. And that's.
Oh, that's not cool. Those are not.
Oh, did
No,
that
it stopped. It stopped. It stopped.
Did it stop?
No,
Yeah.
it did stop. It stopped.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
Wait, you're
No
not.
side cuts, dude.
Jeremiah.
It makes sense in every way.
Just like maybe your mid-game.
Yeah, he's waiting for you downstairs.
So I know my
You're taking his place.
Okay.
You have a CRU though.
Is this your watch?
That's
No, that's Aiden.
No, it's Aiden.
You have a CRU.
Oh, cool.
You just kept it.
He had a CR.
You never asked for it back, so.
He had a CRU earlier.
Okay,
so
keep going. Keep going. Yeah, put it down.
Okay.
We gotta finish.
I'm taking Judith's letters
Yeah.
carefully.
Go.
Who am I after?
Her.
So who's after James?
I'm after James.
Wait, no.
Okay, that wasn't James.
You went? Okay.
No, I'm
Let's
taking
just redo
Judith's
that.
place.
Let's redo that one.
We're after.
All we have
Wait,
is-
who is he after? Who is?
Judah? Who's after Judah?
You're after her.
Okay.
Wait, are we starting over? Or just
No, not starting over. Not starting over. Same
I
amount.
thought-
Go.
Do it.
Oh, yes.
I've seen some pretty clever scams out there
Oh my god.
that actually get people.
So, someone found our